Welcome to Rock Your Talk Expert Interview Series with Leisa Reid. I am Leisa Reid, and I'm joined today by my guest, Brian Andersen, and he's with Telecomprehensive Solutions. He's going to share some really cool tips about digital transformation, which I think we can all use, especially during these times. And Brian, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me, Lisa.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what you do, like specifically, who do you help?
So I help largely privately held small to mid-sized organizations that are looking to increase their performance capability and their market capitalization by going through a digital transformation process and updating their technology stack, updating their processes, and really emerging as a 21st century business model.
Yeah, and as I understand what you do, it's like you're almost like this interpreter for maybe a business owner who's had their company for 20, 30 years, and they may have started some of their upgrades, but maybe aren't aware of all that technology can provide in terms of increasing their productivity. And just sometimes we just don't know what we don't know, right? So you're like the guy, you're like, let me listen to what you've got and help you figure out what you don't know so we can help you be more productive.
Absolutely. In a nutshell, that's it. I do a lot of fractional CIO and CTO work for my clients. So I'll come in at the executive bench level. We'll talk through business processes, business outcomes, and then figure out how do we work with the existing technology stack that they have or update and refresh it to achieve those business outcomes that they're looking for.
I love it. Yeah, it's funny. We need so many different eyes on our business, right, to really help us be the most effective, most efficient. And I know you have some tips you were going to share today too, to help business owners, whether it's during now or in the near future, but how can you really embrace technology to increase your business, right? So can you share some tips with us?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think one of the biggest things that businesses really need to focus on, and it's especially true now, but it's always been true, is to really plan for the bad times during the good ones and execute towards better things when current circumstances improve, right? Historically, I mean, we saw this after Katrina and after 9/11. A lot of small businesses ended up failing because they didn't have a plan in place for how are they going to continue their business if the world and the ground underneath their feet shifted under them suddenly, and how do they actually recover and restore their operations quickly and timely and spin back up, or pivot to become profitable and actually address whatever the market demands are as they shift, right? So that's really a planning issue, and there's no better time to do it than when things are going absolutely perfectly.
So what do we do now? Because I don't think it's going perfectly for a lot of people.
It's definitely not going perfectly for a lot of people right now.
Yeah.
So finding a way to be agile right now and to start planning for what you want your business to look like once we come out of this. What is that outcome? And how can you take advantage of the current circumstances to do that? With every change, there's an opportunity for improvement. And so embracing that mentality that, the sky isn't falling, right? There's an opportunity here. And we just need to take a step back and pause and be patient and think through a little bit how we can take advantage of that opportunity and then start planning and executing on it immediately.
So is that something that you can do when you work with, whether it's potential clients or regular clients, where you say, okay, here's the situation from the technology piece or software piece or whatever. If we looked at it from this angle, we could make an opportunity that you may not have seen before.
Correct.
Even though the circumstances are what they are right now, you're able to see into, it's almost like a forensic accountant, even though that's not what you do. Like you can almost like see into things and see opportunities that other people may not be able to see.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, and I hate to say it this way, but our people are what drives our companies, right? Whether those people are our clients, whether they're our vendors, whether they're our employees, it's a community of people that believe in the shared vision of the value that you've created. And that has been disrupted at this point, right? Employees that you may have had within your organization that were perfect within a certain role under your direct guidance and supervision may not have the same skill sets that are necessary to be able to work from home. But they may still actually have value intrinsic to the business as far as, their relationships with customers and some other things. So now we have an opportunity to take a look and say, okay, what technologies can we introduce to help better support that person, to make them the best they are in this new reality, and how will that improve the business overall? And is it something that we can take outside of this current situation and apply forward to actually have that transformation down the road, where we've now architected and updated our business model to be high performing?
Awesome. And then you had a couple more tips, I think, up your sleeve, right?
Absolutely. Again, going back to thinking about everything in terms of outcomes, and not metrics. Unfortunately, a lot of companies really tend to gravitate towards that. Let's take a look at the metrics, right? What are the KPIs? What are the financials? And although those are super important to know, in times like this, it requires a different type of a leadership. This is wartime leadership. We are all hands on deck. The storm is coming. The enemy armada is in front of us. There's going to be fallout, and we have to accept that, and then figure out, okay, what's the best way that we're still going to be able to navigate through this. And that's by looking at the outcomes. We've got to save as much as we can. We need to move as fast as we can. We need to move as securely as we can. And how do we balance all of that? So, keep in mind that metrics are the guidepost along the way, but they're not the map.
So the outcome is what you're looking for. When you're like, what destination do we want to get to?
Exactly.
Okay. And is there a third tip that you had too?
Absolutely. I like to encourage people to really think in terms of the 3 Ps of sustainable innovation, which, those 3 Ps are process first, and then your people second. And then underneath that is, what are those platforms that we're going to bring in? And without thinking through those first 2, what I see a lot of companies make a misstep in when they're acquiring new technology is they have a sudden circumstance that requires them to change. We've seen that a lot right now in this current circumstance with, oh, now we need video conferencing. We've never thought about video conferencing, but we need video conferencing.
Oh my God, yep.
And the popular one has become Zoom.
Right.
But there are a lot of other conferencing solutions that are out there that may be most appropriate to a company's needs. And so just because I need X video conferencing, making a quick decision is fine because that keeps us moving, but we also need to evaluate that decision over the entire organization and your security profile and your compliance frameworks and everything else that you may need to take into account from an insurance and regulatory perspective, from a people perspective. Is it really the best thing for your company, or is it a transient solution? And it's fine if it's transient, but take the extra step to go out and research and find out what's actually best for you. Okay. And that way you can turn that into part of your best practices.
Wow, it sounds like you have a really good way of looking at the whole picture from beginning to end, looking into the future, looking into the past, and then saying, okay, here's what we can do in the present for your clients in terms of sifting through all the technology. And I know if I Googled, I need a software for Zoom conferencing, Zoom, I'm even calling it Zoom conferencing. If I need a video conferencing software, and you're going to find probably some of the big ones come up right away. But as a regular consumer or business owner who doesn't deal with that, I wouldn't know which one's better or worse, or
correct
what is going to fit for me. So it's like you can sift through all that.
Absolutely. And having industry relationships with the vendors that provide these services at their executive level and with their engineering departments helps me understand kind of what's out there. So a small 5-person team that's in a non-regulated industry, and doesn't have a lot of need for privacy, Zoom's a great option for you. Mm-hmm. If you are in a financial and regulatory environment and don't have the proper security protocols and IT staff in place to actually really lock down Zoom, it's really not the best environment for you. There's other options out there. Right. So, one of the challenges is when people Google, hey, I'm looking for video conferencing, whoever's got the best SEO is
right.
Not really whoever's actually the best provider.
Yeah, I find sometimes it's software that I've never even heard of that somebody shares with me, and I think, oh my gosh, that was, it's like you can get double the impact for half the price, and you just don't know because they're not a popular company, but their value is still really good and the quality is really good. So it's really valuable to have someone like you who's got their finger on the pulse of all that. And how can people get a hold of you? Like, tell us what your website is, because we're going to post this on LinkedIn, but it'll also be on YouTube, so then people can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's https:// telecomprehensive.com. It's just TELE comprehensive.com.
Okay, telecomprehensive.com. Got it. And I know we were talking a little bit about emotional intelligence before the call today, before our show. And we were talking about how you go into organizations, you talk to the executive team, and do you have your own personal, like, emotional intelligence, I don't know, menu or advisement that you would give people these days that you're seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. So, when it comes down to your EQ, really taking care of yourself and your team and your clients and your vendors, everybody's going through a rough time right now, right? And taking a step back to really understand and appreciate and be sensitive to that, and really focus on being compassionate first to yourself, right? If you wake up and you're overwhelmed and you need an extra hour to really get it done, as long as you're communicating to anybody who might be relying on you, that
Sure, don't yeah, acknowledge your agreements, of course, keeping your agreements, yes.
But if you need that extra time, carve out that extra time, right? Find forgiveness for yourself. You may still be adjusting to everything, and it may actually be really burdensome. It's okay. And we need to actually forgive ourselves and forgive everybody else for not being perfect in these times. Everyone's dealing with a lot more, than even we were before. And people were already juggling inordinately complicated existences as it was. Yeah. So, find a way to not only find that compassion and find that forgiveness, but actually embrace that as an action, right? Look for ways to actively be compassionate and actively forgive others and vocalize it. And
what's one way that you actively are compassionate?
So one way I'm actively compassionate is I've checked on literally every single one of my clients, every single one of my vendors. I've gone down the user tree, not just at the executive level and those who are signing agreements, but also reaching out to individual employees that I know are engaged in supporting some of the processes.
That's a great tip, yeah. So I bet people are really touched to hear from you.
It's been really, really nice. I've had a couple of clients reach out to me and just say, I'm really surprised. I've had a lot of people come and just start trying to pitch me new solutions. And you're the first person who reached out just to say, how are you?
Mm-hmm. That's great.
Okay.
Yeah, I know at Productive Learning we had, and if anybody's interested in terms of further EQ and self-mastery, self-development, check out productivelearning.com. We are coming up with, we have a workshop that we've had for years called Anxiety to Empowerment. And it happens to be, it happened to be the next one coming up on the schedule. And so we're like, well, of all the workshops, because we teach over 40 different ones, of all the workshops to come up, it was perfect timing for us to move to a virtual model and be able to offer that type of content to people, because as you're probably witnessing, there's just so much angst that a lot of people who maybe wouldn't have been feeling it as much, we're getting so many changes thrown at us. Our system can end up getting a little overwhelmed.
Right.
And I love your direction.
Well, and you make a great point, right? As far as anxiety, and what a great concept for a workshop, especially in this time. We are all in a completely new environment and situation. There's not anyone who's lived through this particular type of an experience before. Literally 101 years ago was the last time the world kind of faced this type of a thing. And so, if you're big into reading and you really love, really researching the historical, outcomes of the 1918 pandemic, great, you might be slightly more prepared and have a better idea. Most people are not that. They're still looking for the information. They're looking for a way to create a framework that they can understand what they're going through right now. And all of the immense amount of change that's happening, we all know that people are change adverse anyway. And so, that is an additional stressor that we really need to focus on and help to actively work to deflate before we try to move forward.
Yeah, and I've noticed it's even just little things like I'm so grateful for the amount of work I've been able to do on my own self and the people around me, because I'm very blessed because, and you're probably experiencing this as well, the people around me are able to see opportunities like what you were sharing, like, let's use this as an opportunity. And still then, because there's so many waves of changes coming, even sometimes just each hour, it seems like it's leveled off a little bit these days, but um, we're constantly be like, oh wow, like all these little things, like how we shop for food is different. So just these basic little things that we've been doing our whole life a certain way now are shifting. And to be able to bring some of that consciousness in of like, okay, got it, this is something different. This isn't something I would usually do. Big deep breath. How do I want to approach the situation?
Absolutely. And that's true both on the personal level as well as
Yes.
business level, right?
Yes.
So, I've got a few tips for practical digital transformation for people that, are in this environment right now and thinking about their business, right? So number one would be, identify the waste that you've had in your organization for a while. Nobody likes to think about that. But, waste is a byproduct of any system and any process, right? It exists. So go back through those 3 Ps that I had mentioned before: your processes, your people, and your platform. And really take an eye at all of those and look for the areas that you have waste currently, existing in your business model. And now it's time to start planning for and improving that as we come out the other side, right?
Spring cleaning.
Spring cleaning, right? Number 2 is, this is a better opportunity than ever before to have honest communication with every stakeholder in your organization: your executive team, your management staff, your employees, your vendors, your customers, right? What do they need? This is an awesome opportunity for engagement and honest feedback and criticism from all stakeholders to figure out how can you improve, right? So now that we've kind of figured out where that waste is, how can we remove that from the system and how can we improve, right? So
Love it.
2. Number 3 then is, don't let perfection become the enemy of the good, right? As we mentioned before, you made the scramble. Everybody typed into Google best, video at Zoom. Again, it's fine, it's good, but it may not be everything that you need. And should you have not gotten it just because it might not have been perfect? Absolutely not. You made that right decision in that moment. Just don't get bogged down into it, and don't allow yourself to be complacent.
I think, yeah, it's like imperfect action is better than perfect inaction, right? Yeah, where it's like you're analysis paralysis and you're stuck and everyone else is moving forward and you're like, I don't know which are the right choices. At one point you have to decide and put your flag down in the ground and then move forward, and you can move your flag later.
Absolutely.
Like, you got to keep moving.
Coming back to the EQ point, right? About compassion and forgiveness.
Yes.
Don't have to make that perfect decision. Be compassionate to yourself that it's okay to make an imperfect decision.
Yes.
Forgive yourself for that. But then take action. And through action, we overcome the anxiety, right? If we just sit down and have that analysis paralysis, that's where the anxiety continues to build and becomes insurmountable. If we take small actions on a consistent basis, we'll get there, but along the way, find some compassion for yourself and for everyone else who's implementing on these imperfect solutions.
That's right.
And we'll all get better together.
You got it. I love it. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much, Brian, for being on our show today. I love all that you shared. I think people who are starting to really relate to, like, gosh, we've been talking about getting some new software and we've been talking about this, but we didn't know where to go. I think you would be a great asset to anyone who's in that situation, and in terms of your enterprise and your business, and how can you be more efficient and increase your productivity, but at the same point, understand it coming from that compassionate place of like, yeah, we get it. This is going to be a change for people. And how do we approach it that way as well? So it's like you're like this turnkey solution for businesses who are ready to go into that next step.
Absolutely. What I try to tell everybody is, it's not our job to sell you anything, right? But when you have a need and you might need to be buying something, our job is to come in and help you understand what that buying decision is going to be and get the most value out of whatever dollars you're going to be throwing at it. right? So really understanding what this platform offers versus that one. I mean, you could say really we're a professional shopping company for companies as far
I
as
was going to say that, but I'm like, oh, I don't know if you want me to use that metaphor. But you are.
great, right? You know, we come in as your personal shopper for your professional technology services.
I love it. Yes. Okay. Well, if you need a personal shopper for your professional technology services, go to telecomprehensive.com and check Brian out, or reach out to him on LinkedIn. If you have a question, I'm sure he'd be willing to engage in conversation with you. And if he can help you, awesome. And meanwhile, stay tuned for our next episode, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you, everybody.